news from not so far north. I'm Jared Randall, and today there's a message that I've known I was coming to, or that I was going to get to. More about me, really, but not about me. Well, let's just get into it. This hopefully makes sense as it goes along, so hang with it. But it has to do with this theme of love that we've been on, and the heart, and also about vision. Sometimes we can't see. Sometimes we can't see ahead. Sometimes we can't see what we're doing, why it matters. Sometimes we feel like we're doing important things, but nobody's seeing it, that it's not having an effect. All these types of energies are really in the air right now. And I think this is going to speak to some of that. And I think it's going to speak to also to, again, a lot of the darkness in the world right now. A lot of how bad that makes us feel, especially those of us who are sensitive to it. So, yeah, let me get into it. There was a time in my childhood where I went to a private Christian school. It was this little school in the basement of a church. In this little, not even town, barely, not even a four corners there. It was a curve that went, was the closest thing to a four corners. And it was a blink and you miss it type of place. A church, a fire department, fire station, a bar, and a corner store. That's it. Basically, yeah. Used car salesman on the inside of the curve, more or less. That type of place. Not too far from a city, but out away from things. And there was a time at that school where, and you gotta understand, when I say school, this is around 40 kids, all in little cubicle desks in one big room in the basement of this church. That was the school. Everyone sat at their little desk looking basically at the wall, separated from everyone else by their little cubicles, doing their schoolwork. That's what the experience was like. Except for, recesses and gym classes and things like that would pull us out of those things. So that was just the feel of it. So not very many kids, and there would be times where things would get a little testy because there's not very many people to be hanging out with day after day after day after day. And one year, it had gotten bad. People were, at each other. And there was kind of a lot of division, a lot of anger, a lot of directed, rationalized, you did this, and therefore you're bad. You did this. That's why I did what I did. Well, you did this first, and back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I to this day, don't know what it was about. I don't think I knew then. Because I wasn't really ever a person that got involved in those types of things. And that's a bit of what this is about. This isn't going to be for everybody. but for those that it's for, I think you're gonna follow here. And so, and this is among the older kids. I was maybe 14 or 15. And there, at any age level, there was only a few kids at that age level, with maybe a couple of bigger bubbles here and there. And then, like that year, we might not have had any seniors, for instance. I don't remember. So we got pulled into the lunchroom to talk it out, which is, reasonable. Funnily enough, I had no idea why I was there. I'm like, I got no skin in this. This is the way I would say it now. Back then, it was, though, I was very weighed down by it because, these are all people I'm with every day, and they're fighting, and they're expressing all this anger at each other, and very kind of hateful. And I mean, I don't know if you can tell, I'm almost shivering with it now, like the energy of that. It was, whew. And it was one of those grievance sessions, right? Well, if we just get all the grievances out, it's all gonna sort of evaporate and take care of itself, and we'll get to the bottom of it. But the grievances piled up and piled up and piled up, and it wasn't helping. And I was a very quiet kid. I mean, I never felt like anyone wanted to hear what I had to say. Probably because when I would say things, it wasn't what people wanted to hear. Not that I was angry or mad or loud, or it was exactly the opposite. I finally spoke, and more or less was like, hey, we actually all like each other here. Why? The only way through this is just to drop this stuff. Like, what's this even about? Like, we're here at school together, doing our things. Let's just do that, and let this stuff go. Because the grievances were just piling on and piling on and piling on, and all it was a reason why I'm justified, right? A reason why I'm justified to do this to you, to say this to you, to be angry with you. Justified. Self-justification over and over and over. And I was just like, why don't we just move past all this and just do what we're here to do? It was funny because that pretty much ended the session. Like, everyone got quiet. Like, less quiet. Like, I even remember the teacher, like, basically being like, almost like, that doesn't really make sense, but, like, whoa. And the session ended, and everyone just kind of went back out to our little cubicles in the big room. And a little later that day, not everyone who had been involved in the first session, but some people, the ones who had been most vocal, got pulled back in, and I wasn't one of them. So I have no idea what happened there. And after that, everything kind of got back to normal, and actually, we had a good run, if I remember, of everyone actually really liking each other and like being together on things, and like, it was a pretty intimate space. Like, you couldn't get away from people, and if you wanted to do things, there weren't that many kids. We had a softball team. Everyone had to play. Pretty much everyone had to play, or we didn't have a team. Stuff like that. So, yeah, it was important, like, to the quality of life of everyone, that things work. I've been wrestling with, okay, I knew I was supposed to talk about this, but for what point? And I was really drawn to, like, these big, huge things happening in the world. Well, it must have something to do with, all these wars and divisions and people are at... And it does. But what I realized is the important thing here, it was a couple of things. One is I spoke up with my truth, and I'm not saying that I'm the one who solved it all. It took whatever it took from everyone involved. But my little part was to speak up and say what I said. And if I hadn't, maybe that would have turned out worse, I don't know. There's another timeline where maybe I didn't speak up, and who knows what happens, right? People who maybe went on to be friends for their whole lives, even, I don't know. I haven't been in touch with these folks. Maybe wouldn't have. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. And that's part of the vision part of it, right? Like, we do what we're supposed to do. We speak up and say what we're supposed to say because we're supposed to say it. Because we're being true and honest to ourselves. Not because of a certain desired outcome. And this relates a bit to the stuff I've been talking about, the fifth dimensional perspective, which is lots of different possible outcomes if we're being honest. And we can see a lot, and we see all the threads spreading out. It's like we're a spider on the web, and the web is just going everywhere, and we think we can see a lot, but in actuality, we're just getting little bits and pieces of it, and we don't know which threads are going to be the ones in the end. Which ones we're going to experience. Which ones are going to be important. So instead, we kind of have to follow our instinct. We have to follow that intuition of this is the moment where I'm supposed to say this, and say it, do it, be it. And that's the point here, is to encourage that. At the smallest levels, at the levels of 40 kids in a basement, right? Or, 15 to 20 of those kids probably being pulled into the lunchroom to hash out their differences, right? That level. Because that's what builds the world. It's like Legos. It looks big and huge from afar and like it's one thing. It's made of little parts, little chunks, little social chunks. And the most basic level is who you're with now, who you're around now. What are you supposed to say? What are you supposed to be in that context? Be that. Do that. Don't hold back. And there's a next part of this which I didn't realize. This has been coming through as well. I was standing next to, just kind of on the shores of the lake, near where I'm at. It's out the back door, actually. And was recalling just the past year and thinking about what's changed and what's changing and why it's changing. And I think this is important for me to say because it may be a marker for certain people who maybe come to this eventually, whether it's now or a year from now or 6 months from now, 2 weeks from now, 10 years from now, it doesn't really matter. There's a sequence in these messages that I've been putting out, but it doesn't matter. If you come to this by itself, you come to it later, you come to it now, it doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter. But this marker might matter. And this gets into the stuff that a lot of people want to avoid. There's nothing there in that. That's just shysterism. That's blah, 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 blah. And it's the astrology that's going on. And it's big. It's a big shift that's happened right now. And what I encourage you, if you don't already know at least 3 things about your astrological chart. Everybody talks about their sun sign, which, that's I'm a Scorpio, I'm a Leo, I'm a Scorpio, I'm a Leo, I'm a Cancer, I'm a Pisces, I'm a whatever. And everyone gets really hung up on that sun sign, the sign that the sun was in at the time of their birth, right? It's a thing, but it's not the only thing. There's also the rising sign and your moon sign. And there are some other important signs too. And if you want to go deeper, there's good stuff there. And the problem is everyone gets hung up on the sun sign part of it, as if that's it, and that's your identity. And this is why people think it's shysterism, because it gets into this very simplistic stuff, right? That's not the whole story. Your rising sign. What was the sign coming up over the horizon when you were born? Not just where the sun was, but what was that sign that was coming up? Your moon sign. Where was the moon at that point? These things are little clues to, for lack of a better term, the metaphysical origins? Yes. More like purpose. Why are you here? I feel like Luke Skywalker from The Last Jedi. Why are you here? Why are you here now? Not who sent you. Not what did somebody else make you do. Not what was destiny or fated or... No, why are you here? You're here for a reason that you chose. Why are you here? And for a lot of folks, if you have certain signs prominent in your chart, anything connected to Mars or Pluto. So we're thinking here especially of Scorpio, and we're thinking of Aries. And Scorpio is Pluto. Pluto rules Scorpio, but also anciently Mars ruled Scorpio. Mars is also the ruler of Aries. Aries is the hero sign. It's the sort of the beginning of the zodiac. Scorpio is associated with death and rebirth, of letting go, of shedding, a very watery, having a bit of a sting to it. Don't piss off a Scorpio. They might be patient for a while, but when they're done, and you will know it. That type of thing. It's the famous thing. Why does this matter? Because, and it especially matters for people who have Scorpio in their chart, that connection to Pluto. That planet of death and rebirth. And yes, I know, is it a planet, is it not a planet, whatever. We're not talking about that here. Scorpio, or Pluto, sorry, when I was born, was in Scorpio. It was in the sign that it rules. Which is, I find, very powerful. There's a lot of us who were born in that. A lot of us. Because Pluto moves really slow. It's something like, I don't know, 20 years or something like that. It's very slow. So for people a little bit older than me, people a little bit younger than me, around me, a lot of us were born. If you were born connected to Scorpio anyway, sun, moon, or rising, doesn't really matter. And there's a lot of power then. That means you're really connected to this idea of rebirth, dying, rebirth, letting go. That's why I'm the type of person who sits in a room full of people who are at each other, and I'm just like, just let it go, guys. Just let it go, and let's keep living. That's the Scorpio power at its best right there. It's like, yeah, this stuff, I do kind of want to hold on to it, and it's heavy, and it's like feels important to me, but also, you know what? I could just whoosh, and the water just flows away. Woo, it's gone. Just like that. For some people who watch this is going to connect to you, and you're going to go, oh yeah, I do that too. I got that too. And maybe you don't even know. Figure out how Scorpio relates to your astrological chart. There might be something there that might click, make sense for you. Because Pluto makes a slow march, right? And it goes through the signs, and it's gone through Sagittarius, sign of fire, of directedness. Some of us might have had a lot of feeling of directedness at a certain point in our lives that maybe didn't work out, or maybe it did. Maybe you had a time of a lot of clarity, and you did things, and you knew what you were supposed to do. And then we move into Capricorn. Everything got really tough with Pluto and Capricorn. That's like the time of the financial crisis, which really, really hurt me. Hurt. Everything that was going on there, I now realize, Pluto in Capricorn is miserable. And this is kind of known astrologically. I didn't know it at the time. I didn't even know anything about it. I've come to realize it. I come to feel it. Capricorn is very much about bindings and releasings. Things bind you, things hold you down, things do ground you. It can be it's not all bad. It's about grounding or pulling things down to earth and making it real practical. But it was a tough time for that to be happening. And for those of us where Pluto, Scorpio, matters to us, it was very constricting, right? A very constricting time energetically. Pluto is moving into Aquarius, already has. It's going to go do a little back and forth, I think, one more time. So expect some hiccups here. But as Pluto moves into Aquarius, Aquarius is about togetherness. It's about society, about sociality, about finding solutions to things. And here's the point, the end point here of all this, my listeners and friends, and soul family, however you may think of yourselves. Things are about to change because there's a group of us who've been through that cycle, that sequence. Okay? And we've been preparing our whole lives. We've been preparing our whole lives for something. And, it may only be, hundreds or thousands of us. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not into the details of these types of things. Well, how many people were born under it? That doesn't matter. That's not the point here. The point is there are some of us who've been through that sequence, and it has prepared us for something. We see the world differently than others. We've been living in a world that was not ready for us. Just like me sitting in that classroom or in that lunchroom with people arguing, those people weren't ready for me. That's what I know now. They weren't ready for what I had to say to them. It kind of shocked and stunned them. They were silent after that. And it had been a lively session before that. It got quiet. They weren't ready for me. I've had this happen over and over in my life. This world ain't ready for me. It's not ready for me. It's not ready for me. It's not ready for me. It's starting to get ready for me. It's starting to catch up. Just starting. Just starting. We're getting there. Gotta hold on. Okay? And here's then a final thing. If this hums with you, if something's vibrating, if something's like, yeah, then be aware and be wary. Because things don't just change and shift because a planet moves from one sign to another. That's not how it works. You know, the time of Pluto and Capricorn could have been a great time. It wasn't, in my opinion. This beginning time of Pluto and Aquarius is not terribly great, but it's ripe for change. It's ripe for it. But we have to hold on. And some of us are super sensitive, and there's a lot of tough stuff going on in the world. A lot of gritty, sandpapery, on your backside, why do I have to experience this world type of stuff, right? At all levels, right? Things happen in people's personal lives where all of a sudden they have to deal with stuff that just feels so arbitrary and stupid, and you have to go through it, and you're just like, and it makes your life feel like it comes to a crawl, stuff like that. Some of these things will pop up for some of us. At the larger scale, right? We look out and we see wars and we see stupid world leaders doing stupid shit. We see the people who want to be leaders just peacocking around for, the people who they're putting on a show for to get enough support in our broken systems so that they can get into power and be the next one to be stupid on the world stage. I've been saying this, I'm going to keep saying it. They've all lost it. All of them. Almost all of them. There are very few leaders right now who are leading us in the direction most of us want to go. They have to go. Now, I'm not saying, get out your guns and let's have our good old American Revolution. It's not what I'm saying. That's not the way. We may see stuff like that. But that's not what's going to change it, and that's not where we want to go. Pluto in Aquarius could be that way. Scorpio has a stinger. We have to be mindful of that. And as these energies come in and bombard us at the personal level, at the wider world level, society, in all these various contexts, we've got to hold on to ourselves. And this is where it comes back around to love, right? Seeing from something higher. Why did I say the folks in that lunchroom weren't ready for me? Because I was looking at them through the eyes of a love that was up higher. Like, guys, what's the point? We all actually love each other here. I don't know. There's a level. There's a level, y'all, where the people who are making the most trouble in this world right now, and those of us who most want to heal it all, are in some spiritual room together, and we don't hate each other. We don't. There's struggles going on there, but we don't hate each other. Getting to that point of realizing that, having a higher perspective, learning how to fight a battle in a different way. Love is a battlefield. Child of the 80s, y'all. Love is a battlefield. We gotta fight that war, that battle. That's what's coming in right now. I know a lot of folks are feeling that right now. And there's a lot of darkness coming in with a whole wave of unsettled feeling. And what I want to encourage you with is this is your time. This is our time to stand up and be love in a way the world hasn't seen before. Maybe ever in this world. It's the time. But it doesn't mean you gotta go out and do crazy things on the world stage. It's right down at the surface level, where you're at, who you're with. A few messages back I talked about, it doesn't matter how many people, see this video. If 5 people see it and they go out and they do something different, that changes, and those people do something different, and those people do something different, all of a sudden it all changes. It all starts to change and shift in a direction, okay? That's all it is. That's all it is. There's a couple of key things here that I keep talking about. One is, again, staying in that heart of love, the heart-mind connection, where yes, I can see things the way they really are, right? But also I can see from the heart. Because sometimes when we see things the way they really are, we can rationalize all kinds of bitterness and anger and tough words that we shouldn't be saying and all this type of thing, right? This is getting long, so I need to wrap it up. That's important. That heart-mind connection, that balance of those two things. So staying in that energy, no matter what's trying to pull you out of it. And it's not going to get easier. It's not. This year's going to be tough. It's not going to get easier. We're going to continue to see tough things on the world stage. That's why this is an opportunity time, though. It's those very tough things that we're going to be seeing that makes it time. Because it's all very visible. We can all see this isn't the world we want. We can all see it. We all sense it. We all know it. We all know there's something different. Question is, what do we do with that? And if we're too free and easy with that scorpion stinger, we're going to ruin things. We're going to have just people at each other. Instead, what we've got to find is unity and find out, okay, and this is a whole other message, what are we really fighting against? Well, we're fighting fear. Fear, more than anything, encapsulates it. And there's all kinds of emotions and ways of being and human activities related to that we're really fighting. We're not fighting other human beings. We're not fighting ourselves. We don't need to. Sometimes we do. We're fighting a way of being. And this is the second thing. I mentioned 2 things. We're fighting a way of being that is now time to refuse. And that's the other thing then in your life, that heart-mind balance, and also refusing the world you do not want to see. I don't live in that world anymore. That's kind of like me in that lunchroom. I'm like, guys, I don't live in this world. I'm not, like, they're my friend and also they're my friend. You guys are fighting and it's awful. I'm also not going to get in the middle of it and pretend I can fix it, because I can't, right? That higher perspective, right? Refusing what you don't want to see in the world. Understanding you can't just change it. You can't make people do what you want them to do. You can't, even if you could, what you want them to do probably wouldn't be the thing that would make it better. They have to go through it themselves. They have to come to their own higher awarenesses and realizations. They're not going to unless enough of us start refusing. I do not want this world. I do not accept this world. This is not the world I allow in my life. I'm going to go live this life. Have a nice day. And as less and less people are in that old world, it's going to just die out. It's just going to die out. It's going to get lonely over there. That's it. And we ground a different world into place that slowly becomes the world. It's not a flash in the skies. It's not Jesus in the clouds coming back. That's not it. It's not it. It's what we do. We make the world. Constantly. Always. Every single minute of every single day. We make the world we live in very practical and mundane ways, but also in some crazy, mysterious, spiritual, whatever you want to say ways. It's all true. All right, that's it for today. The news from Not So Far North. I am Jared Randall. Love you all. Much peace.